President Donald Trump, in a major Truth Social post, said he's moving to ban large institutional investors from buying single-family homes. We're going to look at what he said, what the data actually shows, how big institutional buying really is occurring right now, and whether this could actually move the needle on prices and affordability, all with verifiable sources, so let's dig in. On January 7th, President Trump announced he's taking steps to ban Wall Street and large institutional investors from purchasing single-family homes, framing it as a way to help American families buy homes instead of competing with corporations. He also said he'll urge Congress to codify the ban into law. And that announcement immediately moved the market. Stocks of major real estate firms like Invitation Homes, Blackstone, Americans Home for Rent, they all dropped a few percentage points right after the statement. This was a bold move, but here's the thing. Institutional investors actually own a very small percentage of single-family homes nationwide. And on top of that, we work and build with a lot of the institutional groups. Many of them are not even focused on single-family homes, but other types of affordable dwellings. Institutional investors owning 100 or more homes roughly are about 1% of all single-family home housing stock nationwide. Some reports estimate institutional ownership of single-family home rentals is around 3%. I've heard it go as low down to 1.5%. That's of total stock in certain studies. But again, you see this is still a very small slice of the overall market. So the policy might sound big, but the actual data shows institutional investors are not dominating U.S. home ownership the way the public lore sometimes suggests. Can you imagine that? The media sensationalizes something to make it sound like it's more of a bigger deal than it is, but it actually is not. And I'm basing this purely off of the stats that we're sharing with you. Is it good to have affordable housing? Is it good to be able to acquire a property without an institution getting in your way? Absolutely. But are they taking over the majority of the properties as the media has made us proclaim or believe? Not from the statistics. And a lot of the housing researchers and economists are essentially saying the same thing, that the policy is interesting, but it may not actually solve affordability on its own. So MarketWatch's analysis notes that the institutional investors like Blackstone and others only account for about 2% of the U.S. single-family home rental market, and most investment purchases come from smaller mom-and-pop landlords, not big institutional buyers. The Washington Post also reported similar findings, citing industry research showing institutional investors account for around 1% of home purchases and home ownership. Again, these low numbers concern me that actually this is going to move the needle for what Trump is trying to do, which supposedly get institutions out of the way of homes that are available. Are they really in the way? The U.S. has a persistent affordability problem. Housing prices have surged for years, not only because of values, but one of the biggest things that we saw happen was the material price increases that we saw during the supply chain breakdowns of the pandemic. These were not profit margins for many of the people, or definitely the home buyers or people building homes. It was just what happened during the times. And now with this inflationary effect, those have surged and had to push things up. And home ownership rates for younger Americans, because of these higher prices, because of the supply chains, because of the inflationary effect, they've continued to slip. While Trump's proposal focuses on pulling institutional investors out of the market, many economists argue that the biggest drivers of high home prices are exactly what I talked about: insufficient construction supply, and that was what really happened in the pandemic. We were already behind on housing. The supply chains hit, and that got even worse. The higher mortgage rates, where we've seen large climbs since June of 2022. Regulatory hurdles on building homes. Now, I can tell you this gets worse depending on what state you're in. Some states are a little more builder friendly, others are not. They have incredible fees and red tape to get through that by the time they pay off all the regulatory demands to build a home, the values again get tacked on to the poor homeowner that's trying to get an affordable home. And also population growth in key markets. You always have to look at that. So even if you remove these large institutional investors, there might still not be enough homes available for the buyers, or at least the type of homes that buyers are needing. And overall, the idea of limiting institutional investors has actually seen support from some Democrats as well. So this is not just a Republican thing. It seems like they're both giving it support, but for different reasons. Congressional Democrats have pushed similar restrictions in the past to protect home ownership opportunities. Trump's announcement ends up allying with some of that policy ideas that Democrats had floated before. But again, implementing is a big question whether it's going to happen. And here's the big catch. Trump's announcement isn't a law. He's saying he wants to ban institutional investors from buying homes, but he'll need Congress to pass the legislation to make that happen. That raises some questions. What qualifies as a large institutional buyer? Would this ban force existing landlords to sell? Is this only for single-family homes on the MLS today? Is it for new construction? Would they be able to take people who are building properties on their own land for themselves and say that they have to sell them? Or does this include other types of properties like townhouses or cottages? Again, this could face lots of legal challenges about government interference in the markets. And again, interference in the markets, again, one post immediately after the announcement, major real estate investment groups, the stock slumped. And showing that market took this seriously, even though the policy isn't law yet. So some housing groups have expressed concerns that a ban could restrict the needed investment in housing supply. I mean, every expert agrees we're somewhere between 4 to 6 million homes short of the housing that we need here in the U.S. And so will this actually slow that down even worse, and these restrictions actually hurt us even more? Other people are looking at this and saying this is a good thing. We're focusing on home ownership access. We want young people to own a home. We feel like the institutions are buying up everything. They're outbidding us. This could be the case in certain areas, but the statistics are not showing this. But again, people are wanting that home ownership access for more affordability. So in a nutshell, Trump wants to ban institutional investors from buying single-family homes to help affordability. This is a pretty broad, unclear statement. Institutional investors actually own a very thin, tiny fraction of the overall housing market if you look at the numbers. And some experts say addressing supply and building more homes, that might actually do more to help affordability. I wonder if there's a common ground or if there's something that's actually going to be passed. Right now, all there was a post. There has been nothing put into law, and this proposal still needs Congress, and that could face a lot of legal hurdles as well. So what we say, just keep looking to see what happens. I would not base any major decisions off of this, especially knowing that a lot of the institutional investors are not even focusing on existing single-family homes right now. They're building their own units, smaller than single-family homes sometimes, duplexes, townhouses, cottages to make their numbers work better. So they're not even focused on this. So if you're waiting for this to happen because you think magically there's going to be a better home deal instantly that you can buy, I think you could be putting yourself on the sideline prematurely and with false hope. So keep looking at this, but don't depend on this. Could this affect the markets? Absolutely. But until it comes into law and it's just a post, I wouldn't let it put any of your decisions into the forefront. I'd keep moving on a different plane. So if you've got questions on what housing and policies might actually have an impact on your wallet with real estate, then drop some questions below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another one of these deep dives, because we're going to be diving deep in 2026.